How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So what you can see me doing right now is chopping some inch oak boards, or chopping some oak board into inch lengths, I should say. And I calculated I needed about 32 of them for this job. And what I'm going to do with them will become evident in the video. Now, here are my two pieces of oak. Oak's about 15% moisture. It's been drying out for a year in that state, something like that. Now, one of them is just over 20 inches, and this one that's on the lathe right now is about 18.5, 19 inches, something like that. They're extremely heavy, and we've got them mounted on a mortise spinning at 800 RPM. Now, you might remember from a few videos ago I did a smaller oak piece. That was the one with the Scream pyrography on it, and that turned beautifully. Now that was turning the other way on the other side of the lathe. Now this was a bit more what I expected oak to be like when I did the first one, which was very tough, and it depended which way I was cutting it as to how tough it was. So all I'm doing right now is getting it into round and making it flat, or as flat as I possibly can, using the big old sanding pad. So that's that one done. Looks a bit nicer now, doesn't it? And here's the big one. You might have just noticed that crack right near the center. That's going to cause me issues later on. Tool was a bit dull there, so I went and sharpened it up, had another go. Okay, that's got it into round, just flattening it off now. Pretty challenging trying to make something that big flat. So apologies for all that head cam, but at this point of the making, I I didn't want to have 4 cameras running around the back there. Just wanted to crack on and get it done, so it was mostly on my head. Hopefully normal service is resumed now. So what I'm doing is I've marked across the diameter, and I want to create a grid pattern on the big piece, ready to glue on some of those inch oak boards that you saw me cut. I think that that level is about 1.25 inches wide, and I really need to get a new pencil because it's way too soft. Can't make an accurate line. But there we go, that's the grid done. And I settled on a herringbone pattern, or as close as I could get to one. Now I could have done them butting up against each other and made a solid piece, but I decided I wanted gaps. Now I've disappeared there, and that is because I managed to get super glue in my eye. Fantastic job. Luckily it only went on my eyelashes. Yeah, don't do that. Top tip, don't get super glue in your eye, it hurts. But it's 2 days later now and I can still see, so no harm done. Right, now they were fairly uniform, but I did have to do a bit of sanding to get that face as flat as I could. And then all that was left to do was round the corner off down to the diameter of my second oak disc. And I was half expecting these bits to just go flying all over the workshop, but only one of them went flying across the workshop. I didn't show you that. I'm sure a lot of people out there would probably use PVA or some kind of wood glue and take 3 or 4 days to do this bit. But you know me, I like to do things the quick way, so I'm using Mitabond CA glue, which is almost an instantaneous grab. Full strength is achieved after 24 hours, but I never leave it that long. I probably leave it enough time to have a cup of tea, and that's about it. So on goes the second piece of oak, and what we've made there is an oak pancake, or an oak sandwich. So that's 20 inches wide and about almost 6 inches thick, and that's incredibly heavy. It's by far the biggest thing I've ever put on the lathe. Yes, so we're getting a bit of wobble. Yeah, because that's probably 1/4 of an inch out of alignment on the back. So the first job is get the whole thing into round. And a lot of the out of balance is because that big piece of oak is actually bowed slightly where it dried. And without sort of turning both sides of it, I couldn't get that properly into balance. So we're just going to have to live with that for a little while. So we're pretty much into round. We're just going to start putting our actual bowl shape on the back now. Now, does my enormous tool rest make sense now, folks? I kind of built it to do exactly this job, and my enormous gouge as well. That's why I made them the size I did. I will say that tool rest is still too far away, so I'm going to have to modify it. But it worked a lot better than previously on the back of the lathe. So just putting a final cut on the very back, get that down to almost flat, but it actually sits on the outside of that inner circle, if you know what I mean. It's probably a 16 or 17 inch foot. Now I've tried to weigh the finished bowl, and my scales only go up to 5 kilograms, so it's heavier than that. So I think there's probably about 14 pounds of weight on the lathe right now, spinning at 800 RPM. It's a scary, scary thing. Okay, so I wasn't quite happy with the shape being sort of a uniform curve, so I decided to put a recurve in the base. It was cutting slightly better in that direction with the standard grind bowl gouge, so that's what we went with. And the oak absolutely hated being cut in that direction. Not entirely sure why. Alrighty, so it's time to put our mortise in the back of this piece. As ever, we're trying to get as close to 90mm as possible. there we go. That's the mortise in. Sanding up to, I think I went to 400 grit on this one, which is about half what I usually go to. But the oak was lovely at that grit, so I didn't see any point going any further than that. And just straight Howard Feedham wax, nothing else on this piece. I didn't fix any cracks. Nothing. Just a bit of finish on it. And that is the end of day one. Now, Bill Woolley has been in touch. His woodturning name is Sawtooth Woodworking, and he's done this awesome spalted maple burl live edge or natural edge bowl. That's 12 inches by 6 inches, and that is a lovely piece of work, Bill. Thanks very much for sending that in. And if you'd like your work to be featured on the show, you can send your images to willmakeseverything@gmail.com. And if I could make a request, please, if you're going to send me images, can you please put your phone on the side and take the photos landscape, because it makes my life a lot easier, and you can get more of the picture on the screen instead of having to cut down pictures that are the other way up. So that would be great if you could do that. Cheers, folks. Alright, so it's time to hollow this absolute behemoth out. And this is where we started to run into problems. It was alright on these cuts, where it's spinning nice and fast on the outside, but as I got close to the centre, turning in that direction was almost impossible. So after making a bit of a mess, I found out that if I cut that way, I could get a much cleaner finish. And the gouge wasn't trying to leave the building. It's quite a stressful turning, I'll be honest with you. I was half expecting it to sort of try and decapitate me at some point and have a ring of oak flying at 50 miles an hour across the workshop. But we got away with it. No harm done. It took a long time to cut through that oak. I haven't shown you all of that process. And it was a case of 4 or 5 cuts and then go and sharpen up. So you can hear I've just broke through the top layer of oak into the cut out pieces.
Oh, hello.
And the same in the centre. Now I was in two minds with the centre, whether to leave that centre as the wooden slats, or to cut through to try and make a bit more of a depth on the bowl. And I decided to cut through, but then of course I was faced with the what do I do with it now? Well, now I'd cut through because it wasn't a clean cut, partly due to errors in the gluing. But when you see the finished thing, you can let me know if you think that was the right decision, or whether I should have left it complete with the herringbone across the whole piece. Yeah, bits of it flying everywhere. What I should have done is sanded all those pieces instead of leaving the whatever finish was put on them. I would have got better contact with the glue, I think. Yeah, you can see there's not much holding that on, really, is there? But short of starting again, there wasn't a lot I could do about it, so we just carry on, hope for the best. So there you go. You can see that I've cut through the bottom now. Yeah, not very pleasant cutting through all those slats. And that's what we were left with. So what I decided to do was make a square in the centre. I tried making a circle and it looked silly because I've obviously got that point at the top. So after a lot of messing around, we ended up with a square in the middle. Turns out I'm not very good at that whole hand tool malarkey. I'll have to get some practice in. So there you go. I've left one of those edges sort of cut off on an angle. So it's an almost square. Sanded everything up to 400 grit. Plenty of Howard feed and wax. And there it is with all the finish on it. What an absolute monster. Alrighty folks, I will leave you as ever with the glamour shots, and this one only just fits in the light box, but I think it looks pretty cool. Let me know what you think. If you think I pulled it off or if you think I messed it up, let me know. I'm looking at it as a prototype, you know, looking at moving forward, doing different things. So if you want to see more of this kind of thing, let me know. At the very end, I put a picture with that lovely elm flame bowl inside this one, just for scale, so you can't really see how big it is there. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, folks.